Hi, I'm Pav.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast.
Let's start the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We all enjoy a good scare. We all enjoy having the willies put up us. But it's nearly Halloween, so we're going to delve into the genre of ghost movies. Some are disturbing, some horrific, some light-hearted, but all have spooks and ghosts and ghoulies. Here's Neil with his ghoulies and 10 ghost movie facts.
Thank you very much, Pav. So, in the 2001 movie 13 Ghosts, the characters needed in the movie to wear special glasses to see the ghosts. In the original 13 Ghosts from 1960, viewers of the movie needed special glasses to see the ghost. This is one of the only few details from the original that was kept. Oh, Francesca Retondini, I hope I pronounced that right, aptly named Francesca in the 2002 film Ghost Ship, would survive the Costa Concordia sinking some 10 years after the movie. The Ring movie was initially promoted as Ring, with the same title as the Japanese 1998 version. However, shortly before it was released onto the big screen, it was changed to The Ring. For those who are unaware, Ju-on, or The Grudge, is heavily inspired by terrifying Japanese mythologies and urban legends. The clearest inspiration for The Grudge is the Onryo, a vengeful spirit that wishes to correct the wrongs it endured during a prior life. Ghost, 1990s Ghost, starring Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore, was the highest grossing movie of 1990, taking just over $505 million worldwide. Sammy Davis Jr. was Tim Burton's first choice for the role of Beetlejuice.
Oh, I wasn't even ready for the button then after that fact.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah. Drew Barrymore auditioned for the role of Carrie Ann in the movie Poltergeist. Spielberg gave it to Heather O'Rourke and cast Barrymore in E.T., which came out a week later. Martin Scorsese includes The Changeling as his top 10 scariest movies of all time. Oh, he forgot the ghosty noise.
The scary music's run out, that's why.
Casper is considered to be the first movie to have a computer-generated lead character. And the original House on Haunted Hill movie featured a gimmick called the Emergo. Theatres would be equipped with special systems that would cause a skeleton to fly over the audience.
Charming to the last.
Shit, press the wrong button there. That was from Star Wars. Never mind.
Charming to the last.
Whatever.
Yeah,
whatever. It was Peter Cushing. He was menacing.
And Star Wars had a ghost in, didn't it?
It did, sort of. Anyway, we're here to do top 10 ghost movies, and it's a very special occasion. We've got a full screen here, a full house, ladies and gentlemen. Not only do we have old pod pal Tim Downie with us, but we have what we hope is new pod pal Justin Chubb. Yay!
Hooray!
Well, fellas, thank you very much for joining us. I loved the fact, if you're watching this on YouTube, you saw the full thespian, all of their range there with those scary sounds. It was a sight to behold. It was amazing. Thank you very much for that. So, first of all, I want to talk to you guys about your new podcast. Tim, we'll start with you. FOLKLANDS. Mm-hmm. Where did the idea come from, and why team up with Mr. Chubb?
Well, it all stems from a deep love of one book, one particular book, which in this case is the Reader's Digest book of myths and legends of the British Isles. It was published in 1973, probably adorned most family bookshelves in the sort of mid to late 70s. It was one of those things that were just kind of a constant. And as a child, I would wander over to the bookshelf, you pull off this thing, and it's a big book. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these things. It's like a big, chunky book like that. It's essentially like a gazetteer of myths, legend, ghost stories, haunted byways, hollow ways, Roman roads, anything you could possibly imagine was in this book. And as you can imagine, it was just an absolute font of joy and wisdom and mystery as a child. And Justin and I both share the same extraordinary love for that book, and that became our cornerstone, if you like, to making this series.
Right. So have you both been interested in doing a podcast anyway, and just trying to find a subject, or Justin, was this what, as soon as you knew this was it basically?
Yeah, we hadn't really discussed doing anything, but as soon as I kind of realized that Tim shared this passion for the same kind of eerie, atmospheric tales and the idea of kind of going around the country, that was it. We both thought, yes, this is the excuse that we've been waiting for decades to actually do something, you know. Yeah.
We were talking a little bit before we actually pressed record and before Tim joined us, and Neil asked you the question, like, are you a believer, Justin?
Yes.
Do you want to just say what your experience of this, and then we'll ask Tim the same?
Yeah. I mean, I probably have always been very interested and wanting things to be true, and my family have kind of my grandmother had lots of ghost stories and things that she would constantly tell, but I had a spooky experience myself. I was held physically down in a bed in a very, very old Cornish vicarage. It was absolute classic ghost material, but it freaked me out, you know. It suddenly made me reevaluate what a ghost is, that you can have a physical presence, something with actual physical force. So yeah, from that moment on, I kind of made me think about lots of things very differently.
Okay. Yeah. Right. And Tim, are you a believer? Have you had experiences?
Do you know what? I haven't. I think it's because I so desperately want to see a ghost or a goblin or some sort of headless horseman or something, that even if I suddenly felt in the room like, oh, there's been a chill. Just any second now, people, there's going to be a presence, and it's going to be amazing, and it's going to scare the living daylights out of us. Just what? And I think it's that eagerness that makes usually some sort of spirit or entity just go, do you know what? Not today. Not this one. Not this one. I want the guy that no one's going to believe has been, you know, taken up by an alien and then probed. Them's the guys you want. You don't want someone that's, yes, oh, I can't wait.
Too willing to be probed.
No.
Yes.
Surely they have reached the end of probing.
Yes.
Surely they must have discovered everything they need to.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm saying that I take it that you do believe then. You're just waiting for that experience. Or is that what you want to confirm your belief?
I'm a believer in as much as I want it to be true. I have yet to be proven. Right. It's yet to be proved to me that this, in fact, is true. Anything else could be like, I don't know, a door was left slightly ajar. That slight breeze I felt. Oh, what was it? Was could have been anything. So I've yet to see, but I will continue looking.
I said to Justin again before we press record, the one thing I love about the podcast is the fact that it isn't just two people in a studio regaling stories to each other. You're actually basically out in the field, and you're at these places, and you're recording from these places, so you are getting the atmosphere of these places. And I said I was listening to the first episode, and you could feel the sort of chills running down, because you're saying, oh God, yeah, look at those numbers over there, and look at that over there, and you're thinking, yeah, you're actually in the place with you, which I think is a great little way of doing it.
No, there's one of the things that we really wanted to do was to take it out of being like an armchair folklorist and reading ghost stories by the fire, which is a wonderful thing and what I will continue to do, but to actually say, oh, this was set in this old church, or oh, there's a legend in this particular part of a county about a lizard or a dragon or a hobgoblin. Well, let's go there. Let's go there and just see what it feels like, what people in the area think of that thing. What stories do they still have to tell? Are there any current stories about this, this ever rich and still living folklore of our country. So we just thought, yeah, let's take it out and make it less academic. And if it frightens the living daylights out of us, well, great, that's the episode. If we can't find our way back, well, that's great, that's the episode. And I'll call my wife to come and get us, but that's not the point.
So what places have you got, Justin, on the map that you are really wanting to go? Have you got any places? Have you got certain plans?
I mean, I think we're after episode 1, we very nicely had an invitation to go up to a haunted Scottish castle and museum on the Moray coast. So, I mean, that's a big expedition, but that would be absolutely fantastic. I mean, I think basically what we're doing, we're basing our adventures on kind of themes and also sort of exploring different counties, different areas. So we're trying to sort of look at, for instance, the next episode is going to be about giants and dragon slayers. So we're kind of taking a couple of legends and going off to explore in Hertfordshire, and meeting a fantastic author to talk about a specific place. And again, you know, we've got our recording equipment to try and give people a sense of atmosphere going to another spooky church. And yeah, I think we're open to sort of also going in divergent ways. If something, you know, the more we kind of go out and explore, the more people you meet. Like a couple of nights ago, I met this very interesting chap who is a mudlarker on the Thames. So he will go out when the tide befits and go and sort through the mud. And he had this little Tupperware box with him and brought out these incredible things. He had a gaming token that was nearly 1,000 years old.
Oh, wow.
And a little top of a beautifully glazed green pottery, what would have been a money jar that used to be smashed and just thrown away. So incredible things. And so I think, you know, we're kind of open to exploring other exciting things. But yeah, the basis was, let's take a legend or a theme, let's take an area and see what happens.
You said about going to spooky like churches and houses and things. Would you consider yourself one of these, or both of you, people that get scared easily?
Oh, I can do, yeah, definitely. You know, there's something, you know, when we're talking about the films in a minute, I think that's the sort of funny thing. There's an area where being frightened and reading a ghost story is kind of pleasurable, and quite cozy as well. Somehow, I don't know. There's a sort of thin line between being completely frightened out of your wits, but also just a pleasurable spine chill.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
And Tim, do you get scared easily? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, Tim,
I
sorry.
get scared easily. Probably, I'd like to think no, but the answer is probably yes. I would say if anything like this actually happened, and I actually did see some sort of house elf or ghost or phantom dog, I absolutely think I'll go to pieces. And I think that's fair enough. Thank you, Justin. I will need it. I'll put up like a big strong front, but I will literally I'll be hiding.
I can't wait for that moment when it's actually live or, you know, on the podcast. This is when Tim loses his shit. He's just gone. He's running down the field, and there's just, you know,
he's taking his shoes off, and he's just
gone.
Keep going.
Usain Bolt, move out.
It's like the lines of flames from the DeLorean in Back to the Future, following Tim as he's running over the field. We will put the link to the podcast in the show notes, and I do recommend, there's one episode up at the moment, and I can't wait for the next episode, so just keep doing what you're doing, chaps, on that. It's fantastic. But the main job for tonight is to work out our top 10 ghost movies. So, Tim, we'll start with you with your number 10, please.
My number 10. Okay, so my number 10, now I had to think long and hard about this, and in what kind of order and what kind of thing do I want to get across. So this one's my number 10, and it's a film called Session 9. It's by Brad Anderson. It's in 2001, and it stars Peter Mullen as an asbestos remover going into an asylum. I don't know. Do you know the movie?
I've seen it.
No.
Yeah, I do know this. Yeah.
It's a real kind of overlooked gem of a horror film. Because you think it's going to be one thing. You think, oh, right, okay, load of asbestos cleaners going into an asylum. I think I pretty much know how this is going to end. And then it just doesn't give you that. It just becomes quite a dark, psychological. The narrative is very, very fractured. It is way more than the sum of its parts. It's an extremely low budget movie. The payoff is great. But I mean, and there's a lot of kind of inconsistencies within it, and there's a lot of kind of bits and pieces within it that you kind of get, this doesn't really hang together. But the general mood and feeling of the whole piece is great. And I heartily recommend. And Peter Mullen, Peter Mullen,
Yeah.
he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I heartily recommend. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Session 9.
It's exactly what I was going to agree with you, Tim. The atmosphere in the movie is just so strong. It's huge. And like you said, the twist from one narrative to the other is, you're not expecting it at all. But highly recommend it, Pav. Highly recommend.
Is it a gory, ghosty horror film, or is it more like
atmosphere?
Tinkling in
atmosphere, psychological, people not saying things that they should be saying, or are they saying it? Narratives that are kind of fractured within. Didn't someone mention this? One of those films where someone mentioned something right at the beginning of the film, and then you get all the way through and go, hang on, didn't the person that just at the very beginning say like the major plot, and then just disappear and no one paying any attention to it, and then it all kind of comes. It's very good. It's really good.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of it, I must admit. So there you go, Session 9. Okay, great way to start. Another one to add to the list of things we have to work out on. Justin, your number 10 then, please.
Well, I'm going to go for some TV stuff as well as film, because my obsession as a younger person was television, really, and creepy television. 70s telly, really. I think possibly because of the age I was. When you get scared and you're sort of younger, things go in, and in an era where there wasn't videotape, there were no DVDs, certain things kind of stick, and they're just there in the back of your mind, and you're thinking, wow, I wish I could see that again. Now, of course, you can see a lot of these things again. So number 10 for me was there was a series called Beasts on Granada, I think it was, ITV, and Nigel Neal, the author of Quatermass and many other gems of horror, wrote a series of 6 different standalone plays. There's one called Baby, which is really scary and kind of, again, eerie, atmospheric. It's not bloody, it's not gory, but it sort of taps a bit into the stuff that we're interested in. A couple move into a village, a little cottage. They're doing repairs, and in the wall they find this jar, and inside the jar is the body of a very, very old baby. The wife is pregnant. Things kind of start to just get more and more eerie from there on. And yeah, it's a really nicely directed thing from, what year was it? I've got my little notes here.
1976. I think I just had a look on IMDb. Yeah.
John Nelson Burton was the director. And yeah, Nigel Neal himself, for the climax of the very spooky piece, I won't spoil it in case people haven't seen it, but there's a very shocking sort of ending with a kind of shock thing. And he himself was the person who...
I had to do that because you were just making that. my spine was going all cold when you was describing it all. It was getting a bit, oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's a really shocking moment at the very end of the play, and Nigel Neal kind of prepared this thing himself because he just wanted to be exactly right.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a very nice, sinister little piece of 1970s television.
Wow. Simon McCorkindale was in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very angry performance.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. Good couple of crackers there. Neil, what have you got for number 10?
Well, I've got an old classic, The Woman in Black. Now, I'm going to put the movie on there, but also the TV movie and series. And I'm going to give honourable mention to the stage play because I'm a huge fan of that as well. I find this a good classic ghost story, brought up to date, really, for younger minds to get a grips with. It's just got all the usual tropes. It is scary. I can't ever believe that it was a 12 certificate when it came out on the movies with Daniel Radcliffe. And I think they did a very good version. I mean, I'm more, like I said, I'm more of a fan of the stage version. I think I've seen it 4 times now on the stage and still love it every time I see it. It's clever because there's only 2 people in the whole performance, isn't it? Have either of you guys seen The Woman in Black?
I have, yes.
Yeah, it's just fantastic to see it on the stage. And then that's why I think I appreciate the movie a lot more than a lot of other people give it credit for the movie. But yeah, I do like that one. We talk about the chills at the back of your neck and the hairs on your arms sticking up. That's the story that does it really well. And there's like I say, I'll be talking about stage shows again later, but that stage show is fantastic. Although I don't know why in the London one they don't open it with a giant scream like they do on the touring one, which jumps everybody out. But I would say if you've never had a chance to see The Woman in Black on stage, don't find out about how the stage show works. Go and see it. But yeah, and kudos to the movie. They did it very well. And the TV series, which I wasn't a great fan of, but it did have a very iconic, there's that word again, scary moment when the woman floats over the guy in the bed. Do you remember the TV one when they do that?
Yeah.
You see, Nigel Neal adapted it. So
yeah. And that terrified everyone, didn't it?
I really like the TV one. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think the stage play is kind of more playing on your own psychology and just being in a very dark place. Yeah. But
yes, I do enjoy that one.
Yeah, I must admit. So my number 10 is The Shining. Now, The Shining is an amazing movie and is in. Why are you looking like that, Tim?
Number 10 is The Shining.
In my ghost
Your
movies.
number 10 is I don't know what to make of this. I mean,
The Shining is an amazing.
What is 9 better than The Shining? Okay.
You wait till you see my number 3. Is all I'm going to say. You wait till you see
if
my
it's Casper
number 3.
again, I'm gone.
It's Casper.
Yeah.
The thing is like it wasn't originally in my top 10, and then I thought to myself, well, it's The Shining, so it should be, even if it, movies that begin with the letter S, The Shining should be in there. If there are 9 other better movies. I mean, now that Tim said that, I'm looking at my another 9, and I'm thinking Tim's going to rip me a new one.
You're going to be spanked, Pab. You're going to be spanked.
Absolutely. But I will say, it wasn't until I was looking at Google, I wanted to see like top 50 greatest ghost movies, and The Shining. I thought, why is The Shining? I thought, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, obviously it's a ghost movie. But the thing is, like The Woman in Black, I remember seeing the movie of it, and it had every trope on there that I don't like in horror films. And my wife will jump at anything. It doesn't matter. Even if there's something there to jump at, she will jump. Whereas for some reason, I can see it like 5 minutes before, somebody looking in a medicine cabinet with the glass door half open. As soon as they close it, there'll be a joom noise, and someone will be behind them. And I know that sort of thing is going to happen, and that's what really bugs me because it takes me out of the movie. And The Woman in Black seemed to have, the movie anyway, had that all the time. There was always someone walking past behind a door or behind a cupboard, and it just got to me, and I thought, this is all this movie is. And it was really, I didn't enjoy it at all.
I call it a ghost train movie. It's fun for an hour and a half.
But a lot of the
story of The Woman in Black is a very good story if you break it down and listen to, the horrificness of in the village, the bit with the children that've been poisoned with the lime and all of that.
Yeah, but it ain't no Shining, is it? As Tim will.
Verify.
No,
it's not.
Oh, this is going to be a bumpy ride, I feel.
A ghost bumpy ride.
You're not going to get out of this, I can tell you that.
I'm definitely not. Like I say, look at my number 3. Anyway, that is my number 10. We've started it's as we mean to go on. Tim, what's your number 9?
Right. My number 9 is right. It's a film called The Entity, which is early 80s, I think.
Yeah, but
And I'd seen Barbara Hershey only a few times before. In Boxcar Bertha was probably the first time I'd seen her, the very early Scorsese film. And then I remember seeing, I don't know if you remember this at all, but when I used to go into the local video shop in the village, they would always have, the sort of sword and sorcery bit and all those kind of Conans and things like that. And then kind of mixed in amongst all of that was, I remember just this black box with red writing just saying The Entity, with kind of those kind of glow underneath the word. Very 80s. And I was absolutely intoxicated by it. I was like, wow, this doesn't even have a picture. This must be terrifying. And then actually seeing it, being a lot older than watching it and going, actually, this is really quite tough. I don't know. Has any of you seen The Entity?
I've never seen it. No.
yeah, I've seen it again. Yeah.
It's she that gets physically and sort of sexually attacked by a gang of 3 ghosts, entities, and it is quite full on and very controversial when it came out. And it's quite you do get quite a psychological battering from it, as it is quite relentless and it's very intimately filmed. So there's very few wide shots. It feels very claustrophobic, and it is pretty much just Barbara Hershey. There are some other sort of extraneous characters that come into it, psychologists and police and the usual kind of people. But essentially, it's just her in a house, and there is this thing, there is all these groups of things that are in this house, and they are absolutely after her, and she's superb in it. And absolutely brilliant. And as a sustained piece of terror, it's a real masterclass in that. Like, she must have been absolutely exhausted. Looking at it from an actor's point of view, go, goodness me, you must have been shattered every single day. God, I hope the catering was good, because you'd have needed something.
Yeah,
but it's great. It's very 80s, again, really well shot, and it's up there. It's a genuinely uncomfortable, spooky feel, and I think sometimes those films are very few and far between, because we get so used to horror tropes and how things work, and the Luton bus, the classic Val Luton technique of what's that over there. It's the same thing as you closing the door. The Luton bus, if someone went, oh, it's fine, bus arrives, people get off. So we're used to that, but this uses them sparingly and very well, and uses very little music in it, which I think is really good. So The Entity.
Very good.
Good one.
Very good movie.
Justin, your number 9, please.
I'm going to go for Mulholland Drive, the David Lynch film. It's not exactly a horror film. It's not exactly a ghost film, but it's such a haunting and intriguing kind of puzzle about identity and movie making. It's very haunting. I think a lot of my choices of my top 10 are things that sort of have a nightmarish quality, and that's just a film that's very surprising all the way through, because it has trademark Lynchian tropes, are comedy characters, but they're always very sinister. So there's a cowboy with this enormous hat that they meet in this kind of remote garage with kind of neons buzzing, and it's kind of funny, but it's also really sort of unnerving and odd. And halfway through the film, Naomi Watts is sort of the main character, really, that carries us through the film. But she, at some point, the character that's with her, this other woman, just in one scene walks across the room and disappears, and she is never seen again in the film. And it's, well, other very strange things happen. There's a kind of creature that is suddenly encountered outside an American diner, and that is
that's the biggest jump I think I've ever known in movie history.
Is that like the garbage woman?
Yeah, honestly.
You had that on your scariest moments, Neil, I think, didn't you?
Yeah,
did you
because
that as one of your scariest moments?
I did, because it is genuinely terrifying, that bit.
And I love films that you can kind of you feel like if you watch them more, you can unpick them, you can get more knowledge. You know, I love the fact that there are no clear answers. It's like a jigsaw puzzle with things missing, and people have different interpretations of what the film is really about. So it rewards by multiple viewings, and just a great piece of work, I think.
Good one. I still haven't seen it. We talked about this a few months ago, didn't we, Neil? And it was one of the ones that you kept saying to me, you need to watch this movie, and I still haven't watched it.
I mean, I would say you'd have to be a bit of a fan of Lynch.
Right.
I mean, you have to understand how a Lynch movie works. You're not watching a normal A to B movie. You're going to be
like that with
over.
all David Lynch movies, though, would you say?
Apart from The Elephant Man and probably June, yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they're all kind of heightened reality. And
yeah,
I know that he kind of meditates. He does transcendental meditation every morning, and part of the way of freeing his mind and entering ideas is through meditation. So in a way, you know, it is literally a dreamlike state that he's trying to emulate, really.
I would have loved to have seen his version of Return of the Jedi. That would have been amazing.
Crossed with a razor head or something.
Can you imagine? Yeah. Go on then, Neil, your number 9.
My number 9 is Ghost Stories, the one written by Jeremy Dyson and Andy Nyman. Again, I saw this first on the stage when it was with Andy Nyman in the lead role. Actually, your brother took me to see it, Pav. I thought it was terrifying, showing it's basically 3 stories that are all linked, and the movie is exactly the same, and the movie is very well done, but it's so clever because the 3 ghost stories you're hearing are all old stories we've all heard a million times before, but when they're presented in the context of this story and on stage, it's terrifying. And then they've done it very well on the film, which I think is still available on Netflix. And it all links perfectly well. I would always say go and see the stage play if they ever bring it back again before watching the movie. But the movie with the old caretakers, Paul Whitehouse, they've got that young lad who was in he was in a lot of stuff and I can't think of his name now. He was in Black Mirror. He was in a very good episode of that. He's a very up and coming young lad, and The End businessman. And it's clever. I like films that, you know, use old fashioned tropes and then turn it into something original, which they did on this. Now, have either of you both seen Ghost Stories on the stage?
Yes, yeah, I have.
Yeah,
I saw the first night actually at Lyric Hammersmith when it was. Yeah, because I was working with Jeremy Dyson on Jinsey. Actually, he was our script editor.
Okay.
Series.
Yeah.
Lovely man. We called him our guru, and he'd come down and have meetings with us and kind of sit with his eyes closed, pontificating. And he's absolutely into the same stuff that we all are obsessed with. So we were constantly talking about Robert Aikman stories and all kinds of things. But yeah, no, I saw it. And then Ula, who our cameraman on the first series, was the cinematographer on Ghost Stories as well.
Okay.
Fantastic Norwegian cinematographer, really, really talented.
And did a brilliant job on that movie.
Beautifully filmed.
It's a great film, isn't it? It's great. They've done it really well. They've given justice to the stage play, which doesn't very often happen.
No,
yeah.
I do feel like I'm an uncultured swine at the start of this podcast. I'm the one that's not going to the theatre. I've not seen these movies, and I've chosen The Shining at number 10 as my ghost movie.
Let's see what film is better than The Shining. Okay, here we go.
Okay, my number 9, ladies and gentlemen, The Blair Witch Project.
Wrong.
Should we maybe stop and start again? Do you think maybe we should do another?
Turn it around the other way.
Turn it around the other way. Well, look, the Blair Witch Project was a movie. I mean, it wasn't the first found footage movie, but I can remember that it was one of the first ones that used the internet as a way of marketing the movie in a way that had never been done before, making it feel like it was absolutely real and that the people had disappeared. It was the first movie I ever watched with surround sound at home, and I kept looking out of my living room window because I thought somebody was shouting down the street, but it wasn't. It was the rear sound box, if you like. And it genuinely, I don't get scared very much at movies, and I think they'll find with my ghost movie. I haven't got a lot of scary ghost movies in my top 10 ghost movies, but this one genuinely, especially the last scene with the man standing in the corner. Yeah, it's the found footage, the sort of look of it, which obviously is unsettling to start with, and it's in black and white, but it's very rarely that a movie will stay with me for a few days and maybe weeks. But that scene at the very end where you don't know exactly what's going on, and the young man is just standing in the corner with his back to you, and that was a genuinely chilling moment. And then obviously Paranormal Activity and all these other movies that came that were found footage sort of, but it was a phenomenon when it came out, and it was just one of those movies that I think was a moment in time, definitely. I don't know what you guys think. Tim, are you a fan of the Blair Witch Project, which is at number 9 for me?
Which is, I mean, we can talk about that endlessly, but let's back to the film. I remember it coming out, and I know this is going to sound ridiculous. I think it came out on my birthday, or it came out around that time. So I can remember seeing it that opening weekend in the cinema, and it was packed. It was one of those ones we would go to the cinema, and literally everybody was there, sort of waiting.
Yeah.
I think on that particular occasion, we couldn't see the end of the film because someone threw a firework into the cinema.
Oh,
this was
God.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Anyway, that's my story of the Blair Witch. But I really enjoyed it. I didn't know what to expect. I think that was its kind of power.
Yeah.
Is for a brand new audience that, I mean, now we're so used to it. It's it's become like one of those things. Like steady cam cameras, shooting in an office. You go, well, that's been done.
Yeah.
But then that was absolutely like, what on earth is this? And it was done so well, and it was done. Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed it. I've only ever seen it since it came out one other time though, so I've only seen it twice.
Oh, right.
20 or 25 years, maybe.
Yeah. Justin, did you see it?
Yeah, I did. I went to the cinema. I've got it on my little DVD shelf. Yeah, I think it's a really nice, classy film, actually. I think it's really well structured. The performances are very realistic. Yeah, it did freak me out. The bit with the guy standing in the corner is genuinely frightening.
Yeah.
In a kind of simplistic way, very kind of Woman in Black in a way. It's a simple thing. There are no shocky, bloody moments in the whole film, but it's all about this atmosphere and finding these things and feeling watched and quite primeval things. And yeah, I think it's a great film. There was a prequel film called The Last Broadcast, or not a prequel, but it was a film that was allegedly the first kind of found footage.
That's right.
Which is also really good, actually.
Yeah.
Blair Witch people were kind of slightly accused of nicking this guy's idea, but that's also a very good film.
Yeah.
But they did hands up say that they stole the format from the Cannibal Holocaust movie because that's a found footage, and it's interesting if you listen to them and on the documentary. That's where they admit that's how they got their style of the found footage was from that movie.
But I suppose it's also a trope in written books, in ghost story literature, that you find the book of somebody's, terrible experiences, and they probably never made it out, and the last page is ripped, like The House on the Borderlands, William Hodgkins, what's his name?
Hodgson.
So that's sort of a book within a book, where the narrators find this old rotting book in a house that is on the borderlands between a demonic sort of plane and that's a trope that kind of Blair Witch repeats, obviously with new technology. But
Great. Okay, Tim, your number 8, please.
Right, my number 8. So I'm going world cinema here. So we're going to go for a film called Under the Shadow from 2016. It's an Iranian film. And again, it's quite a modern one, which for me is quite a leap, because usually my ones are, they've got to be earlier, much earlier. But this one absolutely took me by surprise. I thought this is a really, really clever, well-made, basically like a haunted house film set in Iran, post-revolution, sort of time of the Ayatollah. and it's about a young family and who live in a block of flats. And one day there's an air raid, and a bomb comes through the roof and kind of lodges itself in the bottom of the block of flats. So it's an unexploded bomb. The house has to be evacuated. For some reason, they have to, the mum and the daughter have to stay in the house, have to stay in the flat. And then things start happening. So it becomes it becomes a story of, did the bomb bring something with it, or did the bomb awaken something within the building that has always been there but now is becoming quite malevolent? And the thing I really liked about this as well is it plays with a different style of ghost. Like, we are used very much to a Western style of ghost, clanky chains, wailing, and that kind of thing. And this plays with more of a Muslim Arabic style, almost like a jinn that would haunt this house. And I found that absolutely brilliant and fascinating, coupled with the political system that is around in Iran at the time. So at one point she runs out of the house without a headscarf on and is stopped by the police, even though she is pleading by saying there is something inside, there is something happening, and I need someone to come and help. And they are more interested in why she's not covering her hair. And she then gets arrested for not wearing a headscarf. And so it's things like that you think that would never happen in a an old UK, American, French, European film, but it plays into the storyline and that sense of, well, inside is hard and spooky and difficult, but outside also has its dangers and threats that also then come into play. So there's never really a sense of feeling completely safe or comfortable wherever you move. And she's also a woman of her own with a daughter, and so that is also another. It's a really clever, with a really good, when horror is done really well, it has such a social voice and something to say, much like Get Out, a very social sort of standing and something to say. And this again does the same thing, and again does it really, really well. And again, it's very eerie, very uncomfortable, shot really beautifully, and new ghosts, different ghosts that we're not used to. So yeah, it's very good.
Where did you come upon that movie?
It's on Netflix.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Netflix, yeah. But I saw it because there was a movie that came out called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which is another Iranian film. It's an Iranian vampire film, all shot in black and white, female lead, female director. And so I was absolutely fascinated. We're going, well, that sounds amazing. I don't think I've ever seen an Iranian vampire film. And again, it plays on the same things about female sexuality. Obviously, vampires and sexuality are true bedfellows, but then putting it within a regime that's very restrictive for women especially, and the idea of a woman walking home alone at night, and instead of being the prey, they become the predators, but for something very different. And it's shot really beautifully, shot around Tehran, and I really thought, oh, that's really interesting to see an Iranian horror. And then suddenly this film popped up, so I went, oh, great, well, I'll go and explore that as well. I'll see what that's like. And yeah, that's how I came across it.
Great. Well, there's another one to add to the list. Excellent. Okay, Justin, your number 8 then, please.
I'm going back onto TV now. There was a series called Shades of Darkness that was a Granada show in the early 80s. And again, they were really very beautifully adapted stories from classic authors. And, very nice group of actors, Francesca Annis, lots of really, really good English actors, John Deteen. And so I'm just picking one episode out of what I think is a really classy and interesting, quite overlooked series that lots of people probably haven't really discovered. And they did one episode which was called Seaton's Aunt, which is a Walter Delamere adaptation. And it's just, again, quite a creepy little story. This schoolboy goes back home with his friend to the house that his friend lives in with his aunt, Seaton's aunt, and Mary Morris this very wrinkly little, quite sinister actress is the aunt, and it's kind of just about him gradually realizing things are very, very odd here. And there are pictures on the wall of a kind of eye, so he's constantly feeling like he's being watched. And at night he sees candles going down the hallway and knows that Seaton's aunt is doing something in the middle of the night. It's kind of properly eerie and creepy, and yeah, just nicely kind of paced. And this was kind of early 80s. I think it was 1983. You can get, I think there's an American DVD of some of the episodes, but that's not on it. But I did find it on YouTube. There's a kind of grainy version on YouTube. Yeah, really good, really good.
There you go. I'll put that on our video playlist for our Patreon subscribers then. If it's there on YouTube, you better watch the whole thing. Very good. Go on then, Neil. You're number 8.
So it's Ringu, the Japanese version of The Ring. I don't mind the Hollywoodization, but it just lost a lot of its atmosphere and scares, to be honest. But the original, if anybody's seen it, is stripped back. It's not a glossy film at all, but we all know the story. You know, you watch the videotape, 7 days later you'll die, and things like this. Japanese horror then in the 90s up to the sort of early 2000s, where they were on top of the world with their horror films, and this was a sort of strong horror one that went ghost story that went mainstream. But yeah, atmosphere, scares, it's got everything you could ever want. And the image when you first see of the girl crawling out the TV in this film, yeah, was again another truly terrifying thing to witness.
For people listening and not watching, Justin just did his version of it there. I couldn't get to the woo sound quick enough there for that, unfortunately.
I mean, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the remake. Naomi Watts again, wasn't it, in the remake? But it's all right. It's just, I'm not, yeah.
I didn't want to see it because the first one was so good.
It is so good. It really is. It's just such a good ghost story. It really is. And terrifying is what we want.
Yeah.
Mm.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, I've never seen it. Like I say, I don't like horror films.
Where have you been?
Yeah. You've seen the remake, haven't you? The Hollywoodization of it,
I
surely.
haven't, actually. No. Look, this is going to be stupid for someone that is hosting a podcast about ghost movies. I'm not a massive fan of ghost movies, I have to say. Not the traditional scary.
There we go. Okay.
Look, I know that, Tim, now that in your eyes I've completely ruined my reputation. Like I had a reputation in your eyes anyway, Tim, but anyway, let's forget about number 10. We're on to number 8 now. So my number 8 is Poltergeist.
That's my number 3.
Oh, is it? That's your number 3 now. Okay.
Very high up there for me as well.
Oh, is it?
Mm.
Not your number 1.
That'll be saying, wouldn't it, Pav?
No, that would be saying. No. What number is it for you, Tim? What number is it for you, Tim?
We can't say.
Another one will be Casper. That's
yeah. Of course it will. Okay, I won't probe any further. I know how much you like that, Tim. But for me, I mean, look, Poltergeist is a scary movie as far as I'm concerned. It's beautifully made, wonderfully written, got some fantastic performances in it, and some genuinely scary, unsettling moments that whether it's the like the clown or the tree in the little boy's bedroom,
or the
just
face
the whole
peel.
just Heather O'Rourke in front of the television, and they're here and all that stuff. It's just so unsettling. But it's Spielberg, Toby Hooper at the top of his game. Yeah, just a great movie.
And of course, the great fact is the skeletons at the end are real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the Indian burial ground, isn't it?
Yeah.
Spoilers.
It's crazy.
Spoilers. Okay, so Tim, you're number 7 then, please.
Oh, right. So I've gone a bit left field with this one, but it's a film I've probably watched, oh my God, I mean, it must be nearly 100 times. It is the 1941 Arthur Askey and Richard Murdoch classic, The Ghost Train.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's superb. It's hilarious and funny. It was based on a play by Arnold Ridley, rather, who was in Dad's Army, and was a very famous playwright as well. And this was his most famous play. And it's just a kind of gloriously silly 1940s kind of piece of propaganda as well. Let's be perfectly honest, during the war years, of sort of kind-hearted Arthur Askey kind of singing and dancing with Richard Murdoch going, "Come along, you silly little man," like that, and Irene Handel going, "Oh, I'll just have another drink of gin. Oh, all right, I'll do it." Things like that, and it's brilliant, and it's about, as you can imagine, a train going down to Truro with passengers. Arthur Askey's annoying everyone, as is the general Arthur Askey way, and they get turfed off in a station in the middle of nowhere. There's a station guard that comes in and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And this is a very good impression, by the way. Just what you know. This is very high class. "What are you doing here then?" And it's like, "Oh, well, can you charter us a special?" Because it's the 40s. He goes, "No trains here. Where are you coming? Where are you going?" All of that. It's brilliant. And then find out that there's a ghost train coming in. If you look upon the ghost train, you will go mad. And yeah, and then there's a nice little sort of twist to it, very 40s twist of people disappearing and then kind of reappearing and mystery and all sorts. But yeah, it's a joyous thing, probably for nobody else, but because it reminds me of childhood and sort of wet Sunday afternoons of sitting watching the ghost train. It'll sit there very, very happily.
Nice. Nothing wrong with a bit of Arthur Askey either, is there? I mean,
No.
he's quintessentially British, but of that time, just fantastic. Okay, Justin, your number 7, please.
I'm going down a similar route here with Dead of Night, Basil Dearden directed, 1945. It's a kind of portmanteau movie. Things like Ghost Stories, the modern one that we were talking about, kind of model themselves a lot on this. And it was one of the very earliest examples of the kind of portmanteau movie, horror movie, where you've got 3 or 4 different connected ghost stories. And it's very classy, the final act, if you like, with Michael Redgrave and a ventriloquist puppet called Hugo, who is not quite as inanimate as he might appear. It's genuinely very frightening and quite psychological. There's a fantastic early ghost story based on a real sort of murder that happened in Bristol that was the basis of a book called The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher. This was a very shocking family murder story. And in this version, in this little short story, the young people are at a party, they're playing hide and seek in this very old house, and this girl goes up a tower into a bedroom and sees a young boy who's ill in bed, and she suddenly kind of realizes she's gone back in time, or there's been a time slip or something. And it's a really good film. It delivers on all levels, and actually the end of the film it has this fantastic circular structure, so you kind of enter the beginning of the film at the end again, and you feel like the nightmare is going to replay again. It's beautiful. It's a great film.
Wow. Neil, you're nodding. Have you seen this? Or
No, I'm just taking notes because it's not on my list.
That's what I'm doing. Because I do get a feeling that as has already been shown on my list is very straight through and populist, if you like, whereas some of these nuggets that we're getting from our guests here are things that I probably would never have come across my radar without doing this pod. So this is what I love doing about this pod, is the fact that we will discover these little. So when we do Ghost Movies Part 2, The Shining will be obviously higher in my top 10. The look of disgust on Tim's face.
I'll wake in the middle of the night and just be pacing, thinking about
for weeks on end now, Pav. You've ruined it.
Like I say, wait until my number 3. That's really going to piss Tim off. Very good. Okay, Neil, your number 7, please.
So it's Peter Jackson's The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox. I think this is a great cross between one of these movies, which is very hard to do, cross between horror and comedy. You can. It's a great story, all filmed in New Zealand. Michael J. Fox, obviously, still probably just in his prime then. It's like I say, you can see the effects that he then subsequently took on to Lord of the Rings movies and everything like that. How he did the wraiths and all of that. I don't quite know exactly how to explain the story, but basically you've got a private detective that's surrounded by ghosts, and he can see ghosts, and then he has to get or help solve the problem of the evil ghost. I think it's Busey, isn't it? Jake Busey is the evil guy in it. And he looks very mean in that one. But if you've never seen it, I'd say give yourself a treat, give yourself a Sunday afternoon, put it on. It's Peter Jackson before he became commercial, I suppose. But great fun.
Yeah, probably is. Sorry, Justin. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say it sounds great. I haven't seen it myself, but I wondered chronologically, was Heavenly Creatures before that, or when did that?
No, it was after that.
Was Heavenly Creatures after that?
Yeah,
sorry, no, I was going to say because I thought that the studios, very similar to what you were saying, the studios, Peter Jackson's presented, I want to do Lord of the Rings, and I want to do this as a 2 films to start with, and then they said no one likes 2 films. Oh, okay, sorry, I meant a trilogy. And they said yes, but you need you need to show us that you can work with special effects, and so that you frighteners as that calling card. So I thought it was.
Heavenly Creatures was 94 and Frighteners was 96.
Oh yeah, there you go. Oh, sorry, my mistake.
So once again, Tim is right again.
Of course he is. But they're both great movies. If you haven't seen Heavenly Creatures,
oh yeah, no, they're great movies.
Brilliant. Heavenly Creatures, I adore.
And that's quite scary, actually, isn't it? You know, this tension where you know that they're going to kill the mother, and oh my god,
a very young Kate Winslet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant, even then.
Absolutely. Okay, my number 7. Don't say it 3 times. It's Beetlejuice.
That's my number 4.
Is that your number 4?
Yeah. Oh, you've been looking at my list. Apart from number 10.
This is Tim Burton. It's Tim Burton at his absolute best. And Michael Keaton, I think it's the role that he was born to play. Something like Beetlejuice. And it's mad and crazy, and I hate watching it when it's on terrestrial television because they always cut out the best bits when Michael Keaton was just allowed to go completely crazy, and they just seem to cut those bits out for some reason. And it's I don't think I've ever seen a movie ever like that since. It's one of those movies I'll put on every so often just because Michael Keaton's not in it a lot. But when he's in it, he steals every scene that he's in, and I'm really interested to see the Beetlejuice 2 that was what was being filmed before the writers and the actors strike. But that face that you pulled, Neil, that's the thing I'm worried about. Is when they come back with these like legacy sequels, they never seem to go the way you want them to go.
Because I get a feeling that when they film it now, that it's going to be a bit restrained. They know what they're doing. Whereas before, they were allowed to go free and wild and just enjoy it. The likes of Catherine O'Hara, I think, is so funny in that movie and so good. You know, Winona Ryder plays the goth teen child so brilliantly. It's hilariously funny, yet perfectly dark. The whole bit when Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis are trying to scare the family away and creating it's really well written. And that's the thing that we forget.
They're ripping their faces off. They're trying to be as scary as they can just to frighten them.
And the smoking woman, I think, is hilarious. You know, with the slit neck and the smoke's constantly coming out of her neck as she smokes. It's just great sight gags.
That's mine. Anyway, that's my number 7. So, Tim, your number 6, please.
Right, my number 6. So I'm going to go all the way, leaping from 1941 all the way up to the heady heights of 1962. A film I remember seeing when I was quite young, and I watched it very late night. I think it was on BBC 2 during the whole movie drome thing that Alex Cox used to do. And it's a film called Carnival of Souls, which is basically like a Lynchian nightmare before David Lynch became David Lynch, and it's about a young woman who's escaping. It's all black and white again, really low budget, who's kind of escaping from her past, but then is haunted by the visions of this pale-faced man that just keeps appearing in strange and then places, and then basically reality begins to kind of shift and fade, and she kind of drifts out of reality into this world of dream. And there's a very famous shot which is around a merry-go-round as she's trying to kind of get off this merry-go-round, and then this white-faced man that's actually played by the director Herc Harvey is chasing her around, trying to kind of push past all these merry-go-round horses and things like that. But it's brilliant. It's deeply unsettling. It almost makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, but it makes all the sense by the time it gets to the end. And it's just really good. It's one of those films that you just can't, you get captivated by it as it's spooky and odd and weird. And yes, it's brilliant. It probably if I watched it again now, I would look at it and go, this is absolute dross. But the residing memory of it is this is a terrifying, spooky, unsettling film, but it also has a slight coziness, like Justin was saying about certain ghost films, is they have a certain coziness to them, and this it kind of has in its oddity and its just strangeness. It has a coziness to it as well, which is very strange. But the woman, I can't remember who plays the lead, she's perfectly dreadful, like literally someone that you would grab from sort of like, Margaret's done some acting. She was in Blythe. She'd be amazing, and then they put her in this, that sort of
That the creepiness, because it's sort of very, very amateur, as you say, but that there's something kind of unnerving about that, because you're used to seeing a kind of polished performance, and I think it is slightly hypnotic. You're partly hypnotic because she's not very good, but you know, you are drawn into this strange world, and it is that kind of very clunky, low budget thing is quite creepy somehow. Yeah.
Candace
right,
Hilligos apparently has her name. Candace Hilligos is her name.
Candace Hilligos.
I've got it on IMDb up here. Yeah, I recognise the pale man that's in the little clips that they're showing. I've seen him somewhere before.
Yeah.
Following you.
Yes.
Yeah. Be careful, pal. He's behind you.
What's that? What's that?
He's there again. Okay, Justin, your number 6, please.
Okay, I'm going back onto spooky 70s telly again. There was a children's TV series called Shadows. And it was kind of deliberately trying to scare children witless. But it was a really classy show again. And this was 1975 it started. It ran for 3 series. They had some very, very good writers. People like Susan Cooper did her first version of The Dark is Rising as an episode of Shadows. But there was one episode I remember watching, and I would have been 9 years old, I suppose, then. It was called The Other Window, and it was adapted from a J.B. Priestley story. Basically, it's a family, and they buy this kind of circular thing that you could put on your window, and it's like a fisheye lens, and you can look through it, and it turns the garden outside into this sort of strangely warped thing. And when the family start looking, the young girl played by Sophie Ward, her first role, I think, when she looks through the other window, she starts to see characters from the past coming through the garden. And I had this really strong sort of fear. There's a bit where these Romans kind of come in to the garden with swords, and they come up to this fisheye lens window, and it was really scary. And I was 9 years old, and I just remember watching this thing, and it stayed with me always afterwards. And I've been looking to see this again for years and years and years, because it was just a really spooky memory. And of course now you can get it, and I have got it on DVD. But I think when you watch stuff that has had that impression on you, you carry that into your modern viewings of things. So I still found it very atmospheric, and part of the thing of a low budget studio with the slightly smeary light when the camera moves that era somehow had a spookiness about just even the quality of the TV film and the lighting and everything.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. I've got that one now on my list. I need to look that up.
I'll have to look for that one on YouTube. Go on then, Neil. You're number 6.
So don't judge me on this one, anyone, but I really enjoy this film. It's Ghost from 1990. Patrick
That's my
Swayze.
number 5.
Oh, there you go. I think it's a great comedy.
Ghost with Patrick Swayze above The Shine. Carry on.
I have my reasons. Let Neil say his first, and then I'll say mine.
Well, I just think this is a great romp. It's a great comedy. It's Whoopi Goldberg. She won the Oscar, deservedly so. She was fantastic, very, very funny. I think the direction in it is great. The story is great, and the twist, and the lead characters having a great love story that works on screen, because so often we watch ones that don't, or have watched ones that don't, and it just all gels together for me, this one. And well, it's a ghost movie as well.
Yeah. Well, I was 21, and me and my brother had gone to America. My mum and dad very kindly paid for us to go to Los Angeles for a week, and it was on at the cinema. And that was the days, kids, when cinemas would be movies would come out in America 6 months before they would come out, or maybe longer before they would come out in the UK. So I was very proud of myself and that I'd seen this movie before anybody else in the UK when I came back. And I was the girlfriend that I was with at the time, I was saying it is such a romantic movie, and I kept saying ditto to her from that, and she had no idea what it meant. But obviously when she saw Ghost, she realized, and it brought Unchained Melody back into the fore as well. And I thought it was genuinely a really sweet movie at the end.
And it still holds up as
it still holds up. Okay, is it as a movie as good as The Shining? No, of course it's not. But for me, I really enjoyed it. Patrick Swayze was about as romantic as you can get. Demi Moore is Demi Moore. And the baddie, whose name was Carl, which is my name. So, it had everything. Moving on quickly. It's time for this. I need to change my... just bear with me a sec. Here we go.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Yes, pop quiz, hot shot. Now, I don't know whether we've done this with you yet, Tim, have we? Have we done the quiz yet, halfway through?
Sounds good.
Quiz? Yes, I think we have.
Did we do the quiz last time? Anyway, now, as we've got 4 people, Neil is very kindly bowing out. So it is Justin versus Tim. We're going to do some questions. Now, these may not be particularly highbrow questions, but let's see how well you do. It's first 1 to 3. Neil, can you keep count for us?
Yes, of course.
If you get the question wrong, it will go over to your opponent. Justin, we'll start with you. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. In which film did Annabelle the doll make her debut?
Was it The Conjuring?
Yes, it was. Correct for 1 point. Tim, now this is just by luck. I'm doing them as I go, so this is just by luck. What is the name of the hotel Jack Torrance is hired to care for in The Shining?
It's God. I know it. It's the Grantham Arms. No. Overlook.
Grantham Arms. If only it was the Grantham Arms. Correct. Justin, for you, in which city does the 1992's Candyman take place?
Ooh, I don't know this. I'm going to go for Kansas City.
It's not, I'm afraid. So over to you, Tim, to steal the point.
Now, is it Detroit?
It's not. It's
Is it
Chicago.
Oh, it's Chicago.
It's Chicago.
Chicago, that was the other one I was going to go for. I thought, annoying.
No. Okay, Tim, this is your question. Which actor appears in all of these horror movies? The Purge, Sinister, and The Black Phone.
Oh God, I know exactly who it is. I don't know his name. Oh God, I don't know. I know who. I know the actor's face,
but you don't know his name.
His name is.
I'll have to pass it over to Justin.
Ethan Hawke.
It is Ethan Hawke. Well done. So Justin, this is your question. I'm assuming this is for the win, isn't it, Neil?
This is for the win.
This is for the win. What's the screaming masked person in Scream called?
Roger.
Got it.
Hey, that's it.
It's not. Tim?
Ghostface.
It is Ghostface. It is Ghostface.
Oh,
I
now
believe then,
Tim for the win.
this is for the win.
How quickly it turned.
Where do the Ghostbusters set up their headquarters?
Sorry, say that again.
Where do the Ghostbusters set up their headquarters?
In a fire station.
Is correct. Well done, Tim. Well done, well done, well done. I only had one question left as well, which was, what profession did Ricky Gervais's character have in the movie Ghost Town? Anybody know that?
Dentist.
It was a dentist, indeed. Well done, Tim. Well done. The trophy is in the mail.
Fabulous.
Well done. Well done. Okay, your number 5, please, Tim. Back to the actual work at hand.
Right. So I'm gonna go Mexican.
Wow.
with of Spain. So I'm going to go The Devil's Backbone by Guillermo del Toro. This was possibly my first, I think this was my introduction to del Toro, and I was absolutely blown away by it. I thought this is just aesthetically this kind of like gothic Civil War Spain horror set in an orphanage, and there's like ghost children. Again, another bomb. There's that bomb in the forecourt, which they kind of walk around in ticks and they kind of leave it alone. So there's that threat inside, outside. There's the threat of Franco and the Spanish Civil War all around. And I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And that dealing with again, it deals with those things that Del Toro loves, that sort of like the realms of fairy and the realms of other entities that probably come into play in Pan's Labyrinth and things of that. And even I think his first film, Kronos, kind of deals a little bit in the kind of like the folklore of these things, and I loved it. I thought it was just so incredibly layered, that idea of trying to escape something, but it's around, and in order to escape you have to find the thing that is holding you there. I thought it was absolutely glorious and amazing, and some really extraordinary visuals. I remember one in particular. There's a kid in bed and he pulls a screen and there's a shadow of a child looking very close right next to him, and then just pulling it back and it's not there, it's gone. And then it doesn't do the usual trope of, and then you lean back and it's standing behind you. Just nothing happens, but it just leaves you with that lingering sense of dread, like, oh, there is something that can see me, but I can't see it. And I found it extraordinarily, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And again, and also a ghost story set in somewhere that's hot, which you don't often see. It's usually cold, wintry nights or abandoned buildings or things like that. But this was, big, hot, middle of the desert, good old ghost film with the Spanish Civil War raging around.
It's the one thing Del Toro is great at is the visions and the imagery that he can put on a screen. That's his gift, I feel. Most definitely, and unsettling images as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Pan's Labyrinth is such an incredible film. It's very scary and there's some horrible images, but it's beautiful as well. And did he do The Orphanage? Is that one of his, or was he just...
No, he's just produced that one, didn't it? That was that Bayona or JD Bayona, was it?
Yeah, but it came out just after, I think after Backbone, didn't it? So it rose very, very heavily from it. But again, that's a really good film as well.
It is fantastic, yeah.
Very good, very good. I will mention that I did go a little bit early with the quiz, because I didn't do my number 6, which is actually The Sixth Sense, which is the modern day ghost movie. Spoilers if you haven't seen the movie, but it's a ghost movie, amazingly. We can talk about it a little bit later on, maybe. Justin, your number 5, please.
There's a film called The Appointment, which was another starring Edward Woodward. 1981, director called Lindsay Vickers, and for years it had become this kind of cult thing that was only available on very grainy VHS. There was a really bad version of it on YouTube. It became this kind of cult film, partly because you couldn't see it, and Edward Woodward was kind of the seal of approval, you know, post Wicker Man, doing another horror film, and it's now released on BFI Blu-ray, but it's from quite an odd source, so that the quality is not fantastic even now, but it's quite a strange, nightmarish film. And again, it sort of has a dreamlike lack of logic, and it's sort of around this. He's a father of this very talented girl who's going to play the violin at school, and she wants him to come to see her concert, but he has to go to a business meeting somewhere else. And all this sounds kind of very not like a horror film, but it builds into something quite unexpected, and there's a whole sequence at the end that is really beautifully shot and kind of very scary, kind of thriller action horror. And it's just got a very strange atmosphere to it. Again, a bit like Carnival of Souls, the daughter character, you can't quite tell if she's just a really bad actress or is part of the sort of direction of trying to get an unusual performance. But there's something quite creepy about that too. And there's a kind of motif of these very savage dogs running in slow motion, and it's kind of feels like a bad dream, but it's quite an interesting film, and I was really excited to see it finally released.
Did you say that was available on YouTube?
It used to be. I don't know if it still is, but this was a kind of very bad copy from the
right.
loads of kind of lines across it. But in a way, that kind of added to the Blair Witch like thing of this is the only way you're going to see it, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Neil, you're number 5.
So it is The Grudge, both versions, actually. I'm going to put the Hollywood version in there because it's one of the remakes that I think they did a very good job. So basically, a spirit is in a house. Something bad has happened. So anybody that moves into this house, the spirit's going to get them and seek revenge. It's a basic ghost story executed very well. I think the lead ghost of it's the Japanese horror, you know, with the dark hair, the white, making you jump, coming up from the covers, coming out the cupboard, in the attic, the scuttle of it, the thing. It's what I would say is a great introduction to a good ghost film if you want to be scared. I think there's not a lot in it that's really violent, really graphic. It's just good chills and scares. And I thoroughly enjoy this one. I've seen it numerous times, both versions, and they both stand up very well. And I believe it was the same director from the original that did the American remake.
Which do you prefer?
If I was really pushed to shove, it would be the Japanese original. You can't beat it. It brings a lot more of the atmosphere, but they did a great job transferring it across because they still filmed it in Japan with Sarah Michelle Gellar's in the lead role.
Right.
And they still filmed it in Japan, and yeah, it's still got that creepiness, that unnerving, that you know what's going on, and the noise it makes. If you know, I'm not going to try and do it because I really couldn't with my throat.
Yeah, go on, have a go.
No.
Do the noise.
Come on.
Do the noise, isn't it? I can't get my voice. It's a strange clicky groan. I can't do it. I really can't do it. I'm just sounding like I'm vomiting or something. But yeah,
you've done that enough on the podcast, Neil. You're
Right.
Yeah.
Come on.
But yeah, it's a terrifying noise that sticks with you. If you've never seen the movie and have no idea, that noise, I guarantee, if you hear anything similar afterwards, you'll be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, my number 5 was Ghost. So we're back with you, Tim, for your number 4.
My number 4, right. I'm surprised he hasn't been mentioned thus far, but maybe that will come up later. It's going to be John Carpenter, The Fog.
Yeah,
Absolute. It's an absolute stone cold classic. And again, it has that similar thing, and maybe it's the radio thing of sort of like, and here we are late night, and watching that fog roll in over the sea. It has a warmth and a coziness and a comfiness to it, even though it's just super cool. It's also got Jamie Lee Curtis. It's got the classic John Carpenter soundtrack to it. It's really, really enjoyable, and then it also has that quite very old-fashioned story of, you know, like a ghost ship coming back for the 100th year anniversary of, I can't remember quite what it is, but it's the City Fathers. That's it, the City Fathers or something is coming back. And then that revenge, and then that classic Carpenter thing of just close-ups of grappling hooks going into people or kind of slashing someone's face and things like that. But yeah, I absolutely love it. And that slow creep of, you know, what's coming. And I do like that thing, very similar to It Follows, which is another extraordinarily brilliant film, one of those films that is a real hidden gem, not one you can just, which was what I did once, which is just, you just kind of throw it on a Halloween evening and then just expect people to just go, there it is. But it's because it's a real creeping watch. And I think The Fog is the very essence of that. You know it's coming, you know it's coming, you know it's coming. It's just a matter of time. Even if you shut a door, it all kind of creeps under, or you close a window and it creeps in through the side. It's really, really good. Again, and one I could happily, if I see it on, I'll happily just sit and watch the whole thing. I just really, really enjoy it. Not necessarily scary as such, but it's just very evocative for me.
I think it ticks all the boxes of things that are scary, isn't it? It's like the fog is just inherently scary anyway, I think.
But that end shot when they're all in the church at the end, and you see the sailors basically in the fog, I think it's quite terrifying still. This was in and out of my top 10 all bloody week. It's a great movie. Great movie.
A great one. Yeah.
Okay. Justin, your number 4, please.
I'm going back onto television again, I'm afraid. Sorry. But there's a play for today that was recently released in one of their box sets called A Photograph. And it's sort of a companion piece to another play by the same writer, John Bowen, who did one called Robin Redbreast, which was a kind of similar to The Wicker Man in terms of a character goes into a rural location and starts to encounter sinister villagers and realizes there's some sort of plot that they're going to become part of, ending in a kind of sacrifice. And A Photograph is the sort of companion play to this. And one of the characters, this very sinister old woman, appears in both of these plays. But there's just something, again, quite intriguing. There's a little bit of reading between the lines about the characters and what's really happening. And it's got a properly spooky, unpleasant ending. And there was, again, just something about the play for today strand that had this freedom of expression that just never really happened again on television. All of these plays were multiple different genres, and you felt like artists and writers could really do something that they genuinely were doing under their own sort of parameters. And I love this kind of thing. Spooky.
Is there anything like Play for Today on TV now?
I don't think there really is. I mean, there are genre things. Black Mirror, I suppose, is probably one of the closest things to it, but there isn't really a strand where I think the great thing about Play for Today was you knew you were going to sit down and watch something interesting, but you had no idea what it was going to be about. And they covered everything during the period of time that they made those things. And so interesting, talented people kind of cross-fertilizing from theatre and film as well. Really interesting.
The only other thing that's similar is Inside Number 9, I'd say.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You got no idea what it is until it's finished, really, with something like that. And Black Mirror is the same kind of thing. Okay, Neil, your number 4 was Beetlejuice.
It was.
My number 4, I mentioned it in the quiz, actually. This is one that's going to make Tim's eyes roll, I'm sure. It is Ghost Town, the Ricky Gervais.
Oh,
I love this movie. It's got a really nice heart. Although please stay with us, Tim. We're nearly finished. We're nearly finished. Remember, this is about ghost movies. It's not just about the movies, okay? It's got a really nice heart. Although it's Ricky Gervais being Ricky Gervais, he's like as he is in every project that he's in. But when it comes to the end of the movie, it always gets me. It always makes me a little bit of a lump in my throat when he finally realizes that he needs to do things for other people as opposed to just being a horrible person. It's just got a nice heart, this movie. That's all I'm going to say about that, because I don't like the way Tim's looking at me with his stern lips.
I can't wait to see that BFI list where they say, yes, The Shining hasn't made it on this year because Ricky Gervais is.
Oh god, like I say, wait till number 3. Okay, Tim, your number 3, please.
My number 3, it's been mentioned before, but for me, it's a lot higher. It's Poltergeist. Toby Hooper, just awesome. I remember I first watched this film when I was in hospital. I think I was having some sort of nasal thing happening as a kid, and for some reason, the nurse said, "Would you like to watch some telly?" And I was still completely out of my head. I said, "Yeah, I'll watch some telly." And they said, "Oh, this, do you want to keep?" I just keep that on, and I seemed to watch. I know it was obviously was the drugs wearing off. Poltergeist on like a loop the entire evening.
Oh my
Every time
Lord.
I opened my eyes, his face was falling off, or they're in a pool of or something horrendous was happening. But then I remember being totally and utterly freaked out by it. And then I watched it on TV and went, no, this is a really good piece of filmmaking. It's great. It's absolutely great.
Yes.
Do you think Spielberg did direct it? I mean, there's always the rumor, isn't it?
I don't know, because when you start watching things like, is it Crocodile that Toby Hooper did, or Alligator, and some of his later films? Life Force is good.
Yeah,
Life
that's
Force,
a good one. Yeah,
just before, but then everything that kind of comes after that is, it does have Spielbergian tropes
Absolutely.
to it.
very much.
The way it's framed, there's a couple of things that Spielberg doesn't do, but he's obviously consciously not done them. You know, the classic kind of Indiana Jones things where you kind of focus on the wing mirror, and then it kind of pans out, and then all those kind of things that he uses, but he doesn't do in this. But definitely there's low angles and the slight comedy element as well with the medium, where she says, "Oh, I'll go in and I will bring back your child." And they say, "No, no, no, it's my child." And she says, "Okay, that's a good point."
Yeah.
Things like that. You go, that's a very classic kind of little Spielbergian trope.
Is she the very small American actress, the quite weird looking lady?
Yes.
Yeah, she's great, isn't she?
Brilliant.
It's definitely got the Spielberg sheen on it, hasn't it?
Just, yeah.
As a movie, definitely. Okay, Justin, your number 3 then, please.
I'm going to take you to Australia now, to Hanging Rock, The Picnic at Hanging Rock, which is a fantastic Peter Weir film from 1975. Again, it's just a really beautifully made film on any level, quite apart from the sort of atmospheric, eerie nature of the story. But it's very intriguing. It came from a novel by a woman called Joan Lindsay, and she kind of intimated that there were elements of the story that were true. Nothing's ever really been proven, but on some of the extras on the DVDs and Blu-rays, when she's interviewed, you get the sense that there's some basis of reality to this quite disturbing story of a school party that goes to this Aboriginal ancient rock, and 3 girls disappear. And it's just this feeling of time, space, atmosphere, sound, light, heat. It's very, very evocative, and it's a beautiful film on multiple levels. It goes into class, it goes into a little bit about race, it goes into kind of time slip. I think it's just a beautiful piece of work, just even in terms of the performances. Rachel Roberts, this grand dame of acting, arrived to play Mrs. Appleyard, the head mistress of this school, and she bought this incredible wig herself that she said, "I am wearing this wig. No one will stop me wearing this wig." It was this massive thing which has a character all of its own, and she was a renowned heavy drinker. And the character actually at the end is turning to alcohol, and I don't know, it's just, again, for me, films that have repeat viewing, because there's sort of this puzzle. You feel like if I watch it again, maybe I'm going to get closer to sort of unraveling this mystery. I think it's a fantastic film.
Great one. Okay, Neil, your number 3 was Poltergeist.
It was.
As was Tim's. My number 3, hold on to your hat here, Tim. Here we go. Now, you can't have a ghost top 10, a ghost movie top 10, without having A Christmas Carol. So you choose, what Christmas Carol do I choose? And of course I chose A Muppet Christmas Carol. You have to, as it's the greatest. Bye, Tim. No, I only discovered this movie probably this time last year. I'd never seen it. And obviously it's A Christmas Carol with Muppets. There isn't really anything. And Michael Caine. What more do you need? What more needs to be said? But I feel with ghost movies, you have to have A Christmas Carol in there somewhere. So that's the one I've chosen. And we'll move on. Anyway, Tim, your number 2, please.
You know what? Having said that, very, very quickly, I took my kids last year to see A Muppet's Christmas Carol with full orchestra.
Oh, wow.
And, absolute joy. Absolute joy.
I can imagine.
That's all I have to say. It was a lovely evening out.
I bet it was.
Right. Number
Yes,
two.
number 2.
So I'm going to number 2, 1964, Japan. And we're going to Kwaidan, which is just one of the most masterpiece piece of Japanese ghost filmmaking from Kobayashi. It's four separate stories loosely based around Lafadio Hearn, who was an English traveler in Japan at the time of the sort of feudal period of Japan, and he collected a lot of folk tales and a lot of ghost stories. And it's these that are used as the basis for the 4 it's a portmanteau film, basically. It's like an Amicus portmanteau film, but set in Japan. And it was at the time the most expensive Japanese film. The sets are enormous. It is beautiful and lush and all in kind of Technicolor, but it is creepy as fuck, and it is glorious. There's one called The Black Hair, which is this Ronin who comes back, sees this woman with black hair, that kind of the tropes you will then see in Ringu and things like that. You will see in this film of the woman with the black hair that completely covers her face and just appears in a room and shifts around, never moves. And then there's one called The Woman of the Snow, where it's just a woman, again, a traveling samurai, a Ronin, is trapped inside this hut whilst this blizzard comes in and the Woman of the Snow appears. It's just eerie and beautiful, and there are so many things that come from it that it's a glorious piece of filmmaking, and I would highly recommend, if you've never seen it, dip into it. Don't be afraid. It's a long film, and obviously it's Japanese in 1964, but it's well worth it. You will be eminently rewarded.
Yeah,
Is it the kind of sorry, I was going to say, is it the kind of thing that's on streaming somewhere that you can see it, or
it's on BFI?
Must be.
Oh, right.
BFI must be, yeah.
Okay.
I watched it about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's an absolutely amazing film.
Glorious.
It's all studio filmed, but the sets are incredible. They've got, boats and you name it, massive kind of rotting fortresses, and it's really beautiful. Kind of the pace of it as well is very mesmeric. It's a long film, but you kind of get drawn into this very slow, haunting pace.
Yeah, wow. It doesn't carry itself. It's a very slow pace, which gives it that sense of being like an old-fashioned ghost story. It's just to be kind of led into the atmosphere and just kind of feel the shifts and the changes rather than jump scare, move on, fright. It's just eerie. Oh, it's wonderful.
Okay, lovely.
I'm gonna have to watch that. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it, so that's gone straight to the top of my list.
Okay, Justin, your number 2 then, please.
We're back on television. Sorry, apologies. So it's 1979. I'm in my little bedroom at night. I've borrowed my parents' little white plastic television, color television. Shouldn't really be up watching anything at night, so I've got the sound on really low, and I've just turned the telly on, and this very, very creepy thing that had always stayed with me afterwards was playing. It was Vermeer type interiors, black and white tiles, harpsichord music, this kind of very dry narration by Charles Gray, who plays the very sinister evil character in Devil Rides Out and also played a Bond villain. So this very kind of mercurial voice. And it's basically the show is Shulkin the Painter, and it was part of the Omnibus strand, I believe. But it's a Sheridan Le Fanu ghost story, very, very creepy. And it's all filmed beautifully like these Dutch masters' paintings. And it tells a very, very kind of ghoulish story of a woman that is basically married off to a dead man. And I never knew what it was called. I kind of watched this thing almost under the covers, sort of fascinated by it. And because it had this documentary feel to it, it just felt completely real. And then, I went to bed really frightened, and I never knew what it was called because I hadn't seen the beginning of this thing. And years later, I was on a kind of forum of nerdy people like me who were looking for lost television things that people might have in their collections. So I just described it and I said, oh, it's this creepy thing, black and white tiles, Vermeer. And somebody said, oh, I've got it. Yeah, Shulkin the Painter. So I got this disc through the post and watched this thing. And it's still very, very scary, very eerie. And it's a great piece of work.
Yeah. No, it's great. I remember watching that for the first time and thinking exactly the same. It was so measured, it was so creepy, it didn't try and trick you in any way. The whole thing was like, this is very, very unsettling and eerie, and everything about it is unhurried and rushed, and it's got that coldness of a painting. But yeah, it's great. It's really good.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Neil, you're number 2.
So we're going to go mainstream Hollywood for this one, and it's Ghostbusters. Quite simply, it's one of my favorite comedies. I think it's a great film that works. I mean, we don't need to say the story. Most people have seen it. Most people know it. But it still holds up to me today as an hilarious film, and funny, great performances all round. They've tried to recreate it. I mean, they did quite well with the recent reboot. I think they did all right, but it's still not got the same magic as that first movie. Even the second one hasn't. So we couldn't have a list about ghosts without Ghostbusters on there, in my opinion.
Yes.
No, it's a great film. You're right.
It is.
Bill Murray is sublime in it.
One of those perfect movies, isn't it? One of those perfect movies. I agree with you, Neil. I do. I'm scared to say anything because I just, in the bottom right-hand corner, I'm seeing Tim with that.
Do
it.
Anyway, my number 2, I'm not going to say anything about it because I've said something about this movie nearly every podcast we've ever done. And it only occurred to me very late in the game that it was about ghosts. And it's Field of Dreams, the Kevin Costner movie. It's full of ghosts. And like I say, I've spoken about this movie probably more than any other movie in all of the 108 episodes that we've done of this podcast. So if you want to hear my opinions on this movie that I think was number 2 in my movies of all time, maybe number 3, I love this movie, and that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say about that, Tim. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it?
Never seen it.
I would recommend it. It's a beautiful
It's a lovely film. It really is a lovely film.
Right, before we reveal our number 1s, we're all going to give you our rundowns, and I've got to look at Tim's face one more time while I say that for number 10, but we'll save that. Tim, if you'd like to give us your 10 to 2, then Justin, then Neil, then I'll do the same.
Right, I've actually done that classic thing where you go, oh, I'll just put that away now. I'm now offended again. Oh, hang on, where do I put the list? Here we go. Right. Okay.
Apologies.
Okay, here we go. So at number 10, Session 9, Brad Anderson from 2001. Number 9, The Entity, Barbara Hershey, 1980s. Where else are we? Number 7, Under the Shadow.
That was number 8.
16. Is that right?
Yeah, that was number 8. Under the
number 8.
Shadow. Yeah,
Number 7. Ah, number 7 was the Ghost Train. Is that right?
that's right. Yes, absolutely.
Number 7, Ghost Train, Arthur Asking, 1941. Number 6, Carnival of Souls, 1962. Number 5, The Devil's Backbone. Number 3 was Poltergeist.
Number 4, The Fog.
Oh, you can tell I haven't numbered these at all. I've just together.
That's fine.
And number 2, Quaidan.
Lovely, thank you. Justin, you're 10 to 2, please.
All right, I'm going to try and remember it as well.
Okay,
There you go. It's a thing.
Yeah. So number 10 was Beasts,
correct.
Beast Baby, written by Nigel Neal. Number 9, I believe, was Mulholland Drive, David Lynch.
Yep.
Number 8 was Shades of Darkness, Seaton's Aunt episode, Walter Delamere. Number 7, I think, was Dead of Night.
Was right, yes.
Yep. Okay. Number 6 was a series called Shadows, the Other Window episode. Number 5 was Play for Today, a photograph.
Number 5 was The Appointment. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Number 5, The Appointment. Number 4, therefore, was Picnic at Hanging Rock.
That was a photograph.
I'm completely wrong. Okay, photograph.
This is harder than the quiz.
Number 3 must have been Picnic at Hanging Rock.
It
Number
was.
2, Shulkin, the painter.
Wonderful. Neil?
So number 10, The Woman in Black. Number 9, I went for Ghost Stories. Number 8, Ringu. Number 7, The Frighteners. Number 6, Ghost. Number 5, The Grudge. Number 4, Beetlejuice. Number 3, Poltergeist. And number 2, Ghostbusters.
Wonderful. And the way I've done mine is I've done my number 1 at number 10. That's
right,
how
yeah.
I've done it, just to change it over a little bit. So at number 1, The Shining. At number 9, The Blair Witch Project. 8, Poltergeist. 7, Beetlejuice. 6, The Sixth Sense. 5, Ghost. 4, Ghost Town, which will be in the BFI's top 10 of greatest ever movies. I'm sure it will. 3, A Muppet Christmas Carol. And number 2, Field of Dreams. So Tim, what is your number 1 ghost movie of all time? It's Ghost Town, isn't it? It's Ghost Town.
It's Ghost Town. After all of that, it is Ghost Town. It's adventure in it's obviously for me it's The Shining. It just stands.
I'm going to say that's my number 1 as well, Pav, because we might as well talk about
damn
it. How can it not be?
How can it not be? It's just superb. It's Cooper at its best. He destroyed cameras to make that film. There's just so much. The mythology also of the film is just above and beyond almost what the film is in of itself. It's just extraordinary. It does everything you would want it to do. It's creepy. The Penderecki soundtrack as well, that kind of creaking, screeching sound. Daniel Torrance going down the corridor, seeing the Grady twins, and it's all of it is just, for me, it's a perfect ghost film because you just feel uneasy. There's just an unease. And it's an unease that is not just, you're just uneasy. It's otherworldly. There is something dangerous out there, in there, watching you. It's around everywhere. You don't know if you can hide because it will find you. It's all over the place. It
really is. And I never understood, and I still to this day, I've read the book and I understand that it's a lot different to what the book is, The Shining, but I still don't understand how Stephen King hates The Shining. Kubrick's The Shining. I just don't.
Changed it so much. He took away, was it the topiary animals?
That's right.
Away all of that, which you kind of think. I remember seeing the TV remake, the sort of like four-parter of The Shining, where they put in the topiary animals, and you go, well, I can see why, because when you read it, it's quite scary. But then when you see, a topiary elephant just go, it loses a bit of the sort of magic a little. But no, that's great.
The thing is, you're right. Do you know what I mean? I know you're right. You are right.
What have you done?
I know you're right. When you say that, when you explain it like that, I know you're right, So I apologise, is all I can say to all the thousands of listeners and to you, Tim, more than anything else, because I don't think I've ever disappointed a guest more in the 109 episodes.
I think you're about to disappoint.
Well, let's hear Justin's number one first. What have you got, Justin?
Okay, I'm going for Night of the Demon,
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, great movie.
which I watched last night actually, just to refresh my memory of, was it the best spooky film? It is a really, really fantastic film. It's got so many set pieces. It could be multiple films. There's so many fantastic set moments that happen. Carswell, the villain, is this genuinely creepy man who inhabits the film, and there's something kind of avuncular about him, and he's got his charming sort of slightly dotty mother played by Athena Seiler, and there's something very, very creepy even about that relationship. She knows that he's doing terrible things, and she's sort of trying to stop him and trying to make these phone calls to stop the curse that he's put in place. There's a fantastic sequence where a labourer who has gone mad and killed somebody is kind of injected with drugs and hypnotized, and goes back into sort of a trauma of this curse that has affected him, the demon he's seen. There's a fantastic, very creepy seance where a man suddenly starts talking in a little girl's voice, and you hear those classic words at the beginning of the Kate Bush Hounds of Love song, "It's in the trees, it's coming." Maurice Denham has a very brief appearance at the beginning of the film and then dies horribly. Yeah, I just think it's a fantastic film, and it has elements of folklore. There's a really wonderful bit that actually was taken out of the US version for some reason, but the main character, who is a psychical researcher, a psychologist, he goes into the country and he meets this family in a kind of old rundown farmhouse with beams, and they're sitting there like sort of Puritans talking about the man, the son who has gone mad and killed somebody. And it's just got this kind of feeling of real kind of roots of folklore and dark magic. And it's a film that I saw when I was probably about 18. They did this fantastic double bill one night of Night of the Demon followed by The Innocents, which are two of my favorite films. And yeah, I just love it.
It's a great movie. I saw that on Movie Drone, Tim, that film for the first time.
Well, actually, yeah.
There you go. Okay, let me bring this home then with my number one. I mean, Neil's already mentioned it anyway. For me, it's a perfect movie. It's Ghostbusters. That's my number one. We've already spoken about it. Tim, thank you very much for the discerning look there. Let's quickly run through these honourable mentions. Aaron Capone Langan said, absolute favourite other than Ghostbusters is The Frighteners. Good acting by Michael J. Fox, good story, decent effects for the time, overall good cast too, a great mix of scares, creepiness and comedy. For pure scares, I've always been fond of the original Poltergeist. It still creeps me out when Diane, Jo Beth Williams, falls into the dugout pool in the rain. She's in the water and the caskets and bodies start appearing and surround her. Stu Grant, Sixth Sense, The Shining, Ghostbusters, 13 Ghosts, Ringu, Tale of Two Sisters, Poltergeist, Beetlejuice, House on the Haunted Hill, and Ju-On. Kerry and Gary Curtis. Absolute favourite is The Conjuring, so well done. Not sure this qualifies as a ghost story. The original Amityville Horror is one of my favourites. Scared me when I was a child, but still gives me goosebumps today. Although not very well received, I truly enjoyed 13 Ghosts. Jennifer Lof Fanoof, 1963's The Haunting, scared the crap out of me when I was a kid, and it still gives me chills. Joy Talbot, I can't watch scary movies, so my favourite one is The Canterbury Ghost. Gabrielle Gonzalez, The Entity, still can't find a copy of that movie or find how to stream it. It's hard to watch, scared the hell out of me as a kid. And Stephanie Fitzpatrick, Ghost and Haunting of Hell House. I feel that one was a trek right from number 10. I do feel I do feel I had to battle for every single one of those decisions. But guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing your. I feel like Neil, our list has got massively improved and longer definitely, with some stuff that we need to catch up on, without a shadow of a doubt. Before we say our proper goodbyes, Neil, do you want to tell everybody how they can get in touch with us and all that gubbins?
Absolutely, I will. You can find us on all the social medias at Top 10 Pods. Give us a click, give us a like, give us a follow, give us whatever it is you do on there. Email us at toptenpods@hotmail.com. You can come help support the podcast at patreon.com/top10pods, where you could be a guest yourself as one of the rewards. And please do check out all of the links via the Linktree. You can find the link in the show notes. And then do please give us a like, give us a review, give us a rating, whatever it is you do on the wherever you get your podcasts from.
Wonderful. And also remember, the link for the Folklands podcast will be in the show notes. So click on that, subscribe, whether it's Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, and have a listen to the guys' podcast, because it is fantastic. So Justin, Tim, thank you so much for joining us. Just keep doing what you're doing when it comes to your acting, obviously, and when it comes to the podcast. Get out there and find all the ghosties and ghoulies.
Thank you very much. We certainly will.
Good. And I feel I will send you via email, Tim, 1,000 lines saying The Shining should have been my number one. Maybe
and to reasons why it should have been your number.
That's the thing. I'm just going to have to, I don't know. I just don't know. I've just never heard anything quite like it in my life.
I mean, look,
I'm just a bit disappointed.
You could have a go at Justin, because it wasn't even in his top 10. At least it was my number 10.
Yeah.
But when you put some of the things, I'm not even going to. Some of the things. Much worse.
Anyway, Justin, Tim, Neil, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you, Justin, thank you, Tim. Great to see you guys.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody, for watching and listening. And I am now going to stand in the corner like Blair Witch Project and just take my punishment. Thank you very much.
10,